Ferrari may be in bigger trouble than anyone realized. Not because the car was slow, because the car was finally fast enough to make the FIA decision hurt. Verstappen hit the wall. Yellow flags came out. Antonelli backed off. Russell kept going, crossed the line, and took pole from Leclerc and Hamilton by just a few tenths. Then the FIA cleared him. No penalty, no deleted lap, no Ferrari front row. And that is why Vasseur was furious, because Ferrari did not lose a normal fight. They lost a possible pole through the smallest, most controversial detail of the weekend, a lift under yellow flags hidden inside Russell's Mercedes data. But here is the twist Mercedes should fear. The FIA may have saved Russell's pole, but could not hide the real warning. Ferrari were close enough in Austria for one stewarding decision to change the entire race. And when Leclerc and Hamilton are fast enough to turn Mercedes from dominant into defensive, the problem is no longer Ferrari's anger. The problem is that Ferrari may have finally found the pace to fight back. Subscribe to the channel. Austria was supposed to be the weekend where Ferrari's weakness became impossible to hide. That was the expectation before everything exploded. The Red Bull Ring is not a forgiving circuit. It is short, fast, and painfully direct. It does not give a team time to explain away its problems. If the engine is weak, the straights expose it. If the tires are not working, the lap time exposes it. If the driver cannot trust the car under braking, the circuit punishes him before the lap is even finished. And Ferrari knew exactly why this track was dangerous. The SF26 had a real strength. In the corners, it could be sharp, efficient, and confident. It could carry speed through the places where grip mattered. It could give Leclerc and Hamilton the kind of platform that makes a driver believe the lap is still alive. But Austria asks more than that. Austria asks whether the car can launch, whether it can climb, whether it can fight down the straights against Mercedes' power. And that was the part of the Ferrari package that still carried doubt. All season, the same question had followed them. Was the Ferrari good enough in the corners to cover what it lost in pure power? On some circuits, maybe. On others, no. But Austria looked like the kind of track where Mercedes could make that weakness hurt. So when Friday practice began, nobody inside Ferrari could ignore the timing screen. Mercedes looked comfortable. Russell looked strong. Antonelli looked fast. Ferrari looked unsettled. Leclerc wanted more grip, and that is never a small complaint. Grip is not just speed. Grip is trust. When a driver says the car is sliding, he is really saying the car is not giving him permission to attack. The front is not biting enough. The rear is not holding calmly enough. Every corner becomes a conversation with the car instead of a command. Hamilton's problem was different. The car was locking. And around Austria, that can ruin a lap before it has a chance to become special. A driver needs to brake late, release smoothly, rotate the car, and get back on the throttle with confidence. If the car locks, even slightly, the driver starts to protect the entry. He leaves a margin. He hesitates for a fraction. And at the Red Bull Ring, hesitation is expensive. By the end of Friday, the message looked brutal. Ferrari were more than half a second away from Mercedes in qualifying conditions. At some tracks, a team can hide behind complexity, traffic, fuel load, long corners, different run plans. But Austria is too short for comfortable excuses. A gap that large there feels like the stopwatch is saying not today. That is why Ferrari looked like a team in trouble. Not because the season was over, not because the car was useless, but because the track appeared to be revealing the exact weakness everyone already suspected. Mercedes had the cleaner punch. Ferrari had questions, and the front row looked far away. But this is where the story begins to twist, because Ferrari had not arrived in Austria empty-handed. They had brought the ADUO engine update. Publicly, Ferrari had been careful with it. They did not sell it as a revolution. They did not promise that it would suddenly erase the gap to Mercedes. They described it as a smaller step, a controlled improvement, something that would not change the entire competitive order on its own. That language mattered. Ferrari knew the danger of creating hype before the stopwatch confirmed anything. In Formula One, if you promise too much, the failure becomes louder. So Ferrari stayed calm. They kept the words modest, but the engineering underneath was not harmless. The update was aimed directly at the power unit weakness. It pushed Ferrari toward a more aggressive operating idea. More heat, more pressure, more efficiency. A way to get more performance when Leclerc and Hamilton open the throttle. That kind of performance is not free. Think of it like asking an engine to work closer to the edge while still behaving perfectly. If the parts survive, you gain strength. If they do not, the risk comes back at you. More temperature means more stress. More pressure means less margin. More efficiency means the whole system has to be precise. Ferrari had made changes around the head of the engine, using stronger materials to handle the punishment. They also had a new shell fuel mixture designed to work with a hotter concept. The target was clear. Make the Ferrari less vulnerable where Mercedes had been safe. Give the car more punch. Give the drivers more chance to attack. But on Friday, that promise had not yet become proof. And that is why the overnight work became so important. Inside the garage, Ferrari had to answer the most important question of the weekend. Was the performance missing or was it trapped? Those are completely different problems. If performance is missing, there is no magic fix before qualifying. You manage expectations. You protect points. You accept the weekend may belong to someone else. But if performance is trapped, everything changes. Then the car already has the speed somewhere inside it. The team just has to find the key. And Ferrari spent the night searching for that key. They looked at Leclerc's grip problem. They looked at Hamilton's locking issue. They studied tire temperatures, braking behavior, throttle traces, and how the new engine delivery was affecting the rear of the car. That detail became explosive because Antonelli was not a Ferrari driver. He was Mercedes. He was fighting in the same session with the same interest in keeping the lap alive, if possible. But he abandoned it. Then Russell arrived. Russell did not abandon the lap the same way. He continued. He crossed the line. And pole went to Mercedes. Ferrari's possible front row disappeared. That is where Vasseur's frustration came from. Not from a normal defeat. From the sequence. Verstappen crashed. Yellow flags came out. Antonelli backed off. Russell completed the lap. Ferrari lost the front row. For Ferrari, that did not feel like being beaten cleanly. It felt like a moment that needed to be examined through the only evidence that truly matters in modern Formula One. The data, throttle, brake pressure, speed, the exact lift, the exact time loss, the exact point where Russell returned to full attack. And that is what made the FIA decision so painful. The stewards looked at the data and cleared Russell. The pole survived. Mercedes kept first place. Ferrari got no penalty, no deleted lap, and no front row back. Vasseur blasted the situation because Ferrari believed the rule should have protected them from exactly that kind of outcome. His frustration was simple. If a driver reaches yellow flags, he has to lift. If the FIA has the data, then the numbers should decide whether the lift was enough. And the numbers saved Russell. That is the problem Ferrari had to live with. Not that the FIA ignored the data, but that the FIA believed the data was enough. The reason is important. It was treated as a single yellow, not a double yellow. A double yellow would have been much harsher. It would have effectively ended the lap. The driver would need to slow dramatically and abandon the attack. A single yellow still requires caution, but does not automatically kill the lap. If the driver shows a clear enough reduction in speed, the stewards can allow the time to stand. And those words became the center of the storm. Clear enough. That is where Ferrari and Mercedes split completely. Mercedes believed Russell had lifted, slowed, and lost time. Russell's lap was protected by the data. From their side, the rule had been followed. Ferrari saw something else. A crash. A yellow flag. One Mercedes backing out. Another Mercedes finishing and taking pole. A front row slipping away. From their side, the moment looked wrong even after the official explanation. That is the cruel part of Formula One rules. A decision can be technically correct and still feel brutal to the team that loses. Russell's pole survived the probe, but Ferrari's anger survived too. And now Ferrari had a different kind of trouble. They were not in trouble because the car was slow. They were in trouble because the car was fast enough to raise the stakes. When a team is far behind, a stewarding decision hurts for a moment, then fades. But when a team is fighting for pole, every decision becomes a wound. That is what happened in Austria. Ferrari had finally put Leclerc and Hamilton close enough to make Mercedes nervous. They had finally shown that the upgrade could work at a track that should have punished them. They had finally reached the point where one yellow flag ruling could reshape the entire race. That is not a small development. That is the beginning of a much harsher fight. Because from now on, every detail matters more. Every flag, every lift, every lap deletion question, every stewarding call, every tenth. Ferrari had crossed from hoping into fighting. And fighting brings consequences.